My book, Homie and the Redneck, is available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. You can buy your copy in stores right now. And for more information, feel free to follow me on Twitter and Instagram under @KingRemDog. Have a good day and enjoy the show. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Nerd Talk Podcast, nerdy talk for nerdy fans. I'm your host, Remington Keyes, and we got a special guest in the building. We got author Will. How you doing, Will?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you guys? How you doing, Remy?
I'm
Oh,
doing
Robert.
great. I've known you almost all my life. I've probably known you the longest out of any of the people that have been on the show.
I know. It's crazy, bro.
So Will has published a book.
Yes, it's Helios 7. It's a science fiction. Takes place in the far future. It is about a father and son kind of surviving an alien invasion on the same planet, same name. And it's the whole thing is that they've been separated from this disaster and they're trying to escape the planet as well as trying to find each other, and both go on their own kind of separate journeys. One goes on John's son, his name's John Keller. His son Kyle Keller is a kind of a teenager at this point, right? So for him, it's a coming of age, learning about the world around him. And then for John, it's more of him going through his trauma and kind of going on that personal journey to figure out what's going to happen with his life, dealing with that trauma along with several other characters that join them along the way.
What inspired you to start writing a book?
It's funny, actually. So I remember, I think maybe back in early high school, I had always loved this idea of stories, and maybe even before that. But something just hit me where I'm like, I don't know. It was a very interesting experience. But I think the way I almost remember it was, I was in junior high, right? And I was doing a kind of an essay for school. It was from English class, and teacher wanted us to do some kind of, tell your own story, that kind of thing. And then this story just kind of came out of the blue with that, and I decided, you know what, let's kind of make that into its own thing, even though and the biggest inspiration for the story, interestingly enough, well, actually, is Halo. Halo has a big inspiration for me, the whole entire Halo series, but more specifically Halo Reach. Halo Reach that was 2010, 2011, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere around when that came out. Yeah, that's kind of like the major inspiration. And it kind of just flew off from there. And
What's your typical approach when it comes to writing? Do you plan it ahead of time, or do you just write off the top of your head? Like, do you outline? What's kind of your process?
so it's kind of a mix of all of that. I remember when I was first writing Helios 7, like I said, when I previously started back in roughly 2011, when I wrote it, it was kind of just a thought in my head. And I initially did have an outline of the idea of how I wanted things to go. And from there, it kind of just went on its own thing. Because I had an idea like kind of how I wanted the story structure to happen. Where well, basically I had the ending figured out before the beginning. So,
Mhm.
and I think that's actually for me that works a lot because that gives you somewhere to work towards. That way, okay, I know that I know that C will therefore lead to B, which will lead to A. So, kind of a backwards way of doing it, but
Right.
that's kind of how I did it for myself.
Who has had the most impact on your writing? I know for me, when it comes to writing, Stan Lee, Butch
Mm-hmm.
Hartman, people like that, Walt Disney, they kind
Mm-hmm.
of had an impact on my style. Who's kind of been
Yeah.
had the most impact on yours?
So yeah, Stanley definitely. That's one. Um, I'd have to say it's odd. I I'd have to say maybe H.G. Wells.
Oh, yep.
After I've been thinking about it, because again, I'm science fiction. I think I kind of got inspiration from that. Maybe a little bit of the worlds in it a little
Yeah, I
bit.
can see that.
Yeah, and that's kind of a major inspiration, I think. And also because I also do want to do comics as well. I'm not sure if I
Mhm.
told you that. I'm actually working on a comic right now. I finished its script and everything. So yeah, definitely Stan Lee is a major inspiration. I would say H.G. Wells. Um, who else I would say? Greg Bear. Greg Bear is not a very he's a science fiction. He's not as popular as the big ones like Stephen King, H.G. Wells, and Edgar Allan Poe, whoever you can really think of, the really big name writers.
Mhm.
But he actually wrote, again, this goes back to Halo. He wrote a book called Halo Cryptum, right?
Mhm.
And that it's interesting. A little bit of Helios VII has how he kind of writes a little bit. I kind of took a little inspiration from how he wrote his story into that in terms of like how character builds.
What are some of your biggest challenges you faced as a writer?
Mix of things. One of them I'd have to say is focus and trying to find the inspiration to go on with it. It's weird because you think that, oh, writing is enough, right? It kind of just, it took me a long while because, again, Remy, I didn't get this book finished until 2020.
Yeah.
So 2000, that's when I published the book. And it's that basically I started really hunkering down back in 2014, I'd
Mhm.
say. So you can imagine that took me about a good while to really get things settled and kind of just going through life stuff and kind of figuring out what you want to do with your life, all that kind of stuff. Which again, I feel like every writer has to go into that kind of phase in their life because like writing is no joke. Like
Right.
it's very specialized.
Are there any characters that are particularly meaningful to you that you can kind of relate to? They mean a lot.
That is the best question I've heard so far. Yes. Okay. So get this. Yes, one of my favorite characters that I wrote, in my opinion, was I called him Jesiah Hector Helix.
Hmm.
He is a very integral person to the story. He is a major character in that. His company, it's called Helix Corporation.
Hmm.
They're a science company, right? And he's kind of in charge of that. There are large story events that happen that kind of that kind of lead uh, uh, um, to him kind of being very influential on a lot of the story beats. Like for example, well, I don't want to spoil too much, but he is actually related to the main character, both main characters, a familiar relation. So that kind of I wanted to I like adding that a little bit to make it feel a little bit more personalized for the character and feeling like, okay, this is a story about family, right? That's something I really wanted to push. But if I could really describe Hector Helix, it's he's ambitious, really wants to stand out from his forefathers because again, he's like I would say maybe fourth or third generation within his family to be in charge of the company. So he's kind of like he has this real hard chip on his shoulders and really wants to do his best and make his name known. And I guess another character, I'll give you a few characters that I'm really proud of, is Michael Keller, who is John Keller's brother. He also again has a very integral piece to the story. He really urges John on with his issues. He tries to help him the best he can. And he's really like the anchor of the story. I think he really keeps things going for John as well as the other cast members. Another character is actually one of the kids because like I told you, there's two separate storylines going on. So you have John's team, gold team, and then you have Kyle's friends that he's with throughout the journey. And one of them is I called him Blaine, and Blaine is he's a black kid, afro and everything. With glasses. He's kind of the wise ass of the smart one. He's legitimately actually very smart,
Yeah.
and he doesn't mind showing it, and kind of makes him. I kind of wanted him to be one of the rational characters, but also a little bit the comic relief, a little bit.
Hmm.
I think I wrote him pretty well. I think. I mean, I can go on with other stuff. I don't want to spoil too much.
What do you hope readers will take away from your book?
I hope that the takeaway from the book is I want them to kind of go through like a personal journey of a sort of fiction of themselves. People with, I'll say one, but people with, with mental hangups,
Yeah.
with psychological issues and seeking help for that, and not to be afraid of it. And also, I want people to get a sense, to really get a sense of enjoyment reading this book, to get that sense of adventure that you'd read, maybe reading an high octane sci-fi novel thriller with cool aliens and mystery, stuff like that, I think.
What advice would you give to people who want to write like you do, who want to get a book published?
Just do it. Don't hesitate. There's going to be a lot of doubt. There's going to be a lot of pushback from mostly yourself, and sometimes other people, but generally yourself. Yeah, don't give in. Just keep going.
What are some of your passions or interests outside of writing? What do you like to do, like to keep yourself busy, to that's like not work related?
So I like to go on walks a lot. I like traveling. Um, I like video games. I love video games. One of my favorite pastimes of all time. I haven't done it in a while, but I think I'll get back into it. Is like playing like tennis.
Can you give us a sneak peek into what you're working on next? What's the next journey of this writing career?
So the next stuff I'm working on is Sedona Path to Peace. And that will be a comic short story. It takes place in the same world as Helios VII. It's going to be taking place around roughly after the book. It's basically about a man named David Rockefeller, who is a former special ops agent working for the government in the world, which is called the UGN, the United Galactic Nations. And his journey is basically figuring himself out. He's trying to, there's so much craziness going on in the galaxy, i.e., the war with the aliens, who are called the Kesharian. I didn't give you guys the name of it, but yeah, they're called the Kesharian. Yeah, he kind of goes on this planet of Sedona, and he meets a lovely cast of characters that are very near and dear to my heart. Yeah, he's kind of an interesting character to me because he actually has a lot of baggage to his character, although I don't go too deep into it so far in the script. Because I do want to turn this into a full-on series.
Mm-hmm.
So people can expect this. Hopefully, I'm pushing for fully everything to kind of be set in terms of like so scripts done, but I guess storyboarding, actually having a physical thing, like maybe even a demo reel for the story written out and drawn out by this year, and hopefully published and distributed by next year. So I'm obviously working on the sequel for Helios 7. It will be called Hyperion X. And that's all I will say on it.
Looking forward to reading both. How can
Yeah.
listeners find out about you and your next projects? Where can the listeners find your stuff?
So they can find me on Facebook. They can find me on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter, it's Cephas Willie. Facebook, Willie Speaks. And then I have another account on Facebook. I have two Facebook accounts that's under Cephas Willie. And that's under, I call that that's my business account. So Will of Imagination. That will be my official business name. I'm going to be calling it. And what else? Oh, I also have a Snapchat. So everyone, keep an eye on my Snapchats. I'm going to be posting just random snippets of characters, backstories of them every once in a while. And hopefully I can get my artist to start producing illustrations so you guys can see what these characters can look like. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you for coming on the show. All his socials and links will be in the description below so you guys can check out Will. All right. Thank you, Will, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Ram. You're just amazing. I love this. Love
It's an
just
honor
this
to have
experience.
you on. You're welcome to come on anytime you want. Come back and let people listen to you again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, bud.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time, I've been your host, Remington Keyes, signing out.